everybody. This is Jackie Luqman.
And I am Baba Luqman.
And...
Oh, no, go ahead.
What you doing?
I was going to look like the artist formerly known as Prince. Baba Luqman, formerly known as Abdul Shahid Luqman.
And welcome to another episode of Live in Coffee, Current Events and Politics in Luqman Nation.
The most dangerous, controversial, notorious show on social media anywhere, and it's been proven.
Yeah, we actually had to kick a follower off.
Oh wow,
we're so notorious and dangerous,
and we don't really like doing that. You know what I mean?
We really do not like.
We don't like doing that, and we're not like we're not dandelions. It's not like we can't take the heat people coming at us. We didn't heard things since we've been doing this, and sometimes people came and we're pretty tolerant. But this guy, even the Luqmans have their limits.
We have our limits, and it needed doing. So, oh well.
Because our name is our name. Wire reference if you Marlo Stanfield.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, look, since our last show, a whole lot has happened.
Yes.
I mean, it's like a whole new world, or maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, look. Before we get into the meat of our show, we want to thank our friends and supporters, our patrons especially. We really, really appreciate your support, patrons. But we love all of our friends and followers. So if you like what you see and hear in Luqman Nation, we ask that you consider becoming a patron of Luqman Nation. You can find us on patreon.com/Luqman Nation, LuqMannation. But if you are not able to do that right now, because we know things is tight for a lot of people, share our videos on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, invite your friends, start a watch party, share all of our content that you can get your hands on, because look, these views need to be shared, the stories need to be told, and there's more than one narrative out there that you're just not going to get all the stuff from some of these other outlets that claim to be progressive, but they really ain't down for the people. So
they're scared.
They're scared to say some things. They're scared to say
some of the things.
We're not.
Yep.
So anyway, we're going to start with the Luqman Minutes.
The Luqman Minute. As we, during the time that we were, in the lab trying to get our things together and stuff, we always keep our ear to the ground. So all the time. So, even though we may not come on as regularly as we do, that doesn't mean that we don't have our pulse, our finger on the pulse of what's going on. But anyway, we got a couple of news items that we call the Luqman Minute, and it's just some things that's how we see it. So number one, and of course this is a very big major story, the nation mourns RBG, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsberg, affectionately known as RBG or sometimes the notorious RBG. She died from a battle with pancreatic cancer. Ginsburg was 87 years old. I mean, she can't complain.
Yes,
87 years old.
She had a very long and rich life.
A very rich life. And Justice Ginsburg, who served for a couple of decades on the Supreme Court, has left behind quite a legacy. With her passing, however, this leaves an open seat on the Supreme Court. The Republicans, who in 2016 blocked then President Obama's choice to fill Justice Anthony Scalia's seat when he passed away, holding the opinion sanctimoniously, Mitch McConnell, sanctimoniously holding the opinion that any action to fill the seat by President Obama should wait until after the election. Because, if those of you who may have been under rock, there was an election going on,
Yeah.
So, not with Obama,
8 weeks.
8 weeks, right.
8 weeks away from
exactly. So
20 presidential.
Right. So the Republicans, they went into their bag of tricks and they were able to block President Obama's choice nominee for the Supreme Court. And here's Mitch McConnell. Well, the American people should have a say, right? This was 2016.
Hold on, that's not what he said. He said, the American people, they have to have our say. They have to have a say in the Supreme Court nomination.
Right.
That's what he said.
That's what he said. That's right. Turkey neck himself. Yeah. So this was the position in 2016.
Yes, it was.
So let's fast forward 4 years from then to 2020, where we at now. And now the Republicans are saying, "Fuck the American people," as they are hastily pushing to confirm Trump's choice to fill Justice Ginsburg's seat. The Dems are crying foul. But it appears that the handmaiden Amy Coney Barrett is quick to become the next Supreme Court justice.
Under his eye.
Yup, pushing the Supreme Court, if this goes through, and it look like it may go through, pushing the Supreme Court further right. So stay tuned. Item 2, not fucking around coalition is fucking around. Grandmaster Jay is nowhere to be seen or heard after the violence that we experienced in Portland, Seattle, the uprising in around Breonna Taylor,
Louisville,
Kentucky. I mean, look, just pick it, you know, and Elijah, McClain, yeah, right. And so, you know, you got all these things going on, Denver, in Denver, and you also are having an uptick in racial violence that is being committed by white supremacists. Now, maybe you might recall, but it was this big display by the Not Fucking Around Coalition, led by Grandmaster Jay, who said that we are here as a militia to protect our people from racial violence. We will never commit violence ourselves, but we are here to protect our people from racial violence. And so we black people who were just so relieved to see Wakanda come to our aid, you know. So, you know, we just were so relieved to see Wakanda come to our aid, and that there are actually black people out there, male and female, who are willing to fight fire with fire. But then something happened. Grandmaster Jay, as so many eagologues, you know, I guess you could say that. You know, he made a video because I guess he wasn't being petted enough. He wasn't being praised enough. You know, he wasn't being invited to enough cookouts. You know, I mean, you know, so, you know, there was some legitimate criticism from a lot of people in the Black revolutionary circles, you know, who really questioned, like, and legitimate questions. You know, nobody was condemning the idea of forming a militia. Nobody was condemning him personally, but, you know, we was like, hey, look, you know, we've been sojourning in this country for a long time, and we had these, you know, we're not new to this.
We didn't have guns before y'all.
Right, and we're not new to this. So Grandmaster Jay didn't like that, and so he made this video because I guess, you know, we didn't lift him up and made him the Black Messiah of the revolution in this country. Then he said, I should just kill you niggas.
That's not what he said.
No, he didn't say that. I'm sorry. No, he didn't say that. But what he did say was that, you know, that if they was to turn their guns on us,
on the people who were
criticizing, right? Then, you know, then how would you feel about that then? So he was threatening to kill the same people that he sworn to protect. I mean, you know, kill the same people he sworn to protect. So now, with all this uptick in racial violence and stuff, the Not Fucking Around Coalition is somewhere fucking around. And entirely. We and Grandmaster Jay, who knows where he's at, but hey, stay tuned.
Or in his case, maybe not.
Or
just
maybe
stay
not.
wherever the hell you are fucking around.
Right.
Because at this point, I don't trust them to be disciplined or to really show up at the right time and be on the right side, to tell you the truth.
Exactly. So now the last item, Smokey the Bear said, "Fuck this shit."
What?
As the wildfires rage out in the West, millions and millions upon acres are being just burnt. Out here in D.C., many of us in this country have already witnessed the smoke and haze from these wildfires.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when we were coming up, there was Smokey the Bear. You know, only you can control, only you
can
prevent forest fires. But Smokey the Bear said, "Fuck this shit. There's nothing I can do about climate change. There's nothing I can do about all this other stuff." So Smokey the Bear had put up his hat and he said, "You know what? I'm going to go up in Alaska while it's still some salmon up there, and I'm just going to just, you know, eat salmon, and I'm just going to retire." The wildfires, Jackie, is so bad now is the fact that, and we talk about, first it's the worst that it's ever been recorded. Yeah. I mean, when you listen to the amount of land that has been destroyed by these wildfires, I mean, something like millions of acres. I mean, I can't even fathom that. I mean, I can have a better picture when I heard people describe it as, oh man, the area the size of New Jersey.
Right.
Well, I know what that is. Right. Or the area the size of Rhode Island. Oh wow, that's a lot of land. You know. So Again, California. And then what gets me is baby Trump. He goes out there and, again, talks about its mismanagement of the forestry and all. And everybody knows that. But everybody knows that's BS. Everybody knows the fact that, they screwed up the climate. And California, the West, has been dealing with drought. And I think in one instance I read somewhere where it was over almost 2,000 lightning strikes. In
72 hours.
In 72 hours. So the tender is dry. It's just perfect conditions for this type of disaster to go on. And so a lot of people have lost their homes. Some people lost their lives. Mm-hmm. And so our hearts and are with those out there. This is really something that, something that we haven't witnessed. Jackie, you and I was talking about when we was looking at the haze from the wildfires. Many of us are old enough to remember Mount St. Helens.
Yeah.
And so when Mount St. Helens, which I think was in 1980, I remember, Jackie, you remember, when we saw the smoke from the eruption of Mount St. Helens. Yeah. So, we are really in some very difficult times.
We're in some perilous times.
Yes, we are.
We are in perilous times that about 100 corporations have caused. This whole gambit that people like to formulate. If individual people would do this, that, and the third. Not to say that we can't all, and that we shouldn't all do whatever we individually can to be more responsible with our waste and with our carbon footprint and all this kind of stuff. But what we have put on our plate is not what caused climate change. It has been 100 corporations that are responsible for 70% of the climate change issue. So there is no amount of individual personal behavior changing that we could do that's going to make up for what they have done. And they have not been held responsible for what they've done. And please don't make that about Trump, because that's not about Trump, because the Democrats didn't hold him responsible either. Right. The Democrats didn't do anything to hold the corporations responsible for their massive contribution to climate change. And it's, Smokey the Bear just said, look, this is above my pay grade. I try to tell y'all.
And I'm glad you said that. Not to belabor that point, but I'm glad you said that, because look, there is not a single person with a brain who is denying that something is up with the climate.
Right.
Maybe 10 years ago it was like, oh, well, maybe on this name. But everybody, even my man down there who don't even pay attention to politics, he even saying, damn, man, it's kind of hot, man, in September, bro.
It's September.
Yeah, it's September, bro. So I'm like, yeah, man, it's hot, man. Damn, so that shit's real, huh? Yeah, it's real. So when we know that we're seeing the largest ice sheet fall off.
Ice shelf melting.
Yeah, ice shelf melting. The fact that as a trucker, I was a big fan of ice road road trucking, but now there is no ice road trucking. You know why? Because all the places that used to be inaccessible because of ice are now, ships can go through there now because the ice had melted.
You mean there are no more ice roads?
There is no more ice roads. They don't need them. So and I say that to say this. There should be hearings. All BP, Exxon, all of these people who knew about this shit back in the 70s and wrote about it and buried it and all this stuff. There should, if we had a government that really cared, if we had a government that really was about protecting the people and doing all this other kind of stuff, these guys, man, their asses should be set. There should be hearings. People need to go to jail behind this.
Yes, people do. People need to go to jail. And Zach over here on YouTube asked a question: if we think we need global solutions, if 100 corporations are the biggest contributors, or do we need to control this nonsense at the U.S. domestic level? Listen, there are countries around the world that have already implemented concrete solutions and are improving their contribution to the climate change issue at a pace that the United States just will not, because our government is a greedy, selfish, capitalist entity that is focused only on settler colonialism and is not focused on doing anything right or just for the people or the planet. There's no room for that in capitalism. So I don't think that we are actually going to get any real serious domestic level policies from this government. And by this government, I don't mean like this administration. I mean the United States government. Because make no mistake, Joseph Biden, he is not going to do a damn thing about climate change. He doesn't like the Green New Deal. He's not going to implement the Green New Deal.
He doesn't like the Green New Deal because the oil industry that puts money in his pocket doesn't like the Green New Deal.
Exactly. And the Green New Deal is not even perfect. It's not even as good a climate plan as we could have. But he won't even do that. So, Zach... And all of our family and friends on YouTube, y'all, get prepared as much as you can. Be prepared for this society to change drastically as a result of the ongoing climate crisis that this government is not going to do anything about. If you want to know how this government is going to respond to the climate crisis, look at the coronavirus crisis.
Well, yeah.
Look at the way it has responded to... And this government didn't respond so badly just because it was Donald Trump.
Right.
Please don't think that we were going to get any more money or assistance if there was a Democrat in office.
Right.
Where there were, you know what I'm saying?
I agree.
There were countries around the world where we talk about this all the time, but I can't say it enough. You know, this government demonizes Venezuela and Cuba and Iran and you know, all of these other countries. They demonize socialist countries, but these countries provided for their people. Nicolas Maduro told the businesses, y'all ain't firing nobody. That's what he was like. I don't care how long this goes on. Nobody's getting fired. We will make sure you meet payroll so that everyone gets a paycheck who was working for you. And don't worry, businesses, you're not going to lose any money. Now, they were able to do this in the midst of a pandemic because Iran and China stepped up and traded with Venezuela, regardless of what the United States did. That's international cooperation in the face of brutal U.S. imperialist repression. But are we going to get that? No. I mean, China, the Chinese government, all the evil socialist, communist Chinese government, they made sure their people had food. They delivered food to people who were quarantined. Now, China was under a lockdown. The Chinese government made sure people had food delivered to them, the medications they needed, if they needed other things, cleaning supplies, you know, masks. The government provided masks, gloves. Testing was free and widespread. And now they're having pool parties. In Wuhan.
And you know, and it's not just those. I mean, if some people out there have a problem because all the examples you named are countries that are led by people of color, well, let's go to Germany. Germany, there's European countries who have done the same thing. Germany, at the beginning of this pandemic, you hear nothing about Germany in relation with COVID.
Right.
You don't hear nothing. You know, you hear about upticks in COVID infections in Portugal and Spain and these things and stuff. But Germany was the strongest economy in Europe. But what Germany did was what you were just saying. Germany got ahead of it. Germany said, you know what? Okay, we understand that we got to quarantine people. People got to stay home. But what we're going to do is we're going to subsidize the businesses so you can keep paying these people.
Right.
You see? So you keep subsidizing so you can pay these people. So basically, the businesses aren't really hurt because they're being subsidized by the government, and those who were working for those businesses get a paycheck, and they don't have to worry about. Unlike us, who are dealing with eviction crisis, who are dealing with, a government that said that it's okay for us to live off of $300 a week, a government that has to debate. That has to debate whether they should come to our aid in these pressing times. So, but in Germany, in places like the Netherlands, and all of these ones with strong socialist, strong socialist programs,
programs and policies,
right. They understood that there's going to be a life after COVID. They understood that.
Right.
And so what it is that you jump on it now, you invest now, and what happens is that when this crisis see its way through, and it's already starting in a lot of places in the world where infection rates are starting to go down. It seems like in a lot of parts of the world, COVID is starting to burn itself out. You know, they say the herd immunity, all this stuff. But my point being is, you bring up China, and China has a population of over 1 billion people.
Right.
And yet, you know, they're not even, I don't believe they're in the top 5 of infections.
No, they're not.
You know, so not only that, but then there's another thing when you go back to climate change. China has announced that it would be carbon neutral by 2060. They announced that. Now, here you have the second largest economy with over 1 billion people saying that we're going to be carbon neutral by 2060, right? And the way that they dealt with, you know, Trump likes to use the racial thing of the China virus. Well, you know what? The joke is on you, Trump, because, like I said, China's not even in the top 5, and yet you want to say, you know, want to use these old racist insults and stuff. But China, like I said, the second largest economy, said carbon neutral by 2060. United States, the United States didn't mention none of that.
No,
you know,
the United States is never going to be carbon neutral.
You know, and so here you're talking about we're what, 5% of the world's population, and have like the biggest carbon footprint. You know, one of the biggest carbon footprints. But at the same time, with the resources that this country still has, to let China outdo you in that shows you the leadership crisis that this nation has.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, but the focus of those other countries, whether it's, you know, and it's especially important to highlight the focus of the governments of the countries that have been in the crosshairs of U.S. imperialism, like Venezuela and Cuba, and you know, Bolivia and other countries like that, that have not succumbed to the right-wing coups, and are still struggling to maintain their people-led or people-focused revolutionary socialist governments. It is important that those governments are led by people of color, because their countries are mostly people of color, regardless of what the U.S. media likes to do when they portray Cuba and Venezuela. They only show like the white people from Cuba and Venezuela, a bunch of black folks in that country, in those countries. And those governments, you know, China, obviously a country full of people of color. Those governments prioritize the health and well-being of the people over the health and well-being of the economy. China knew it was going to take an enormous economic hit. They knew it. And that was the calculated risk they took, because that was not a risk for them, because they understood if you put the people first, if you take care of the people, you make sure the people are all right, the people will recover. And then the economic recovery will come faster if you make sure the people are all right. That's not how it works in the capitalist USA. So, yeah, we're not confident at all that the United States government is going to do anything substantive about climate change.
But what we are witnessing, in my opinion, all of the examples that we just named, what we are witnessing is America's rapid decline as an economic power and as a superpower. I mean, these moves that China is making, you're starting to see. You're starting to see the European Union starting to become more independent of the United States. That, you know, the European Union is talking about having, you know, replacing NATO with their own force.
Right.
You know, so the United States is losing a lot of influence. I mean, this country is basically a pariah. And so when you have this economic power, and the reason why I say that China and that we're witnessing the rapid decline of America as an economic superpower, because one thing that no one talks about, they don't talk about China. You know what the slam dunk is going to be when China overtakes this country as the economic. the Belt and Roads Project Initiative.
Absolutely. We're going to have to do a show just about the importance of the Belt and Road Initiative. Mm-hmm. And we need to do that. We can't do it tonight, but just stick a pin in that, and y'all just write it down. China's Belt and Road Initiative. It is connected to Africa. It is connected to India. It is connected to every country that the United States has tried to strategically use militarily in an imperialist way against China by imposing, by building all these military bases and propping up all of these extremist groups to combat China. But China is outflanking the United States in that effort, and we are going to talk about that one day. But thanks for that question, Zach, because that question leads to a lot of really, really great discussions just about the nature of U.S. imperialism and this whole settler colonial project. And that's what we want to talk about tonight. Well, I'm not going to tell you. We're not going to tell you what the Belt and Road Initiative is tonight, Kai. You have to come back. Write it down. And we will have a show just about the Belt and Road Initiative. It is fascinating. Yeah. It is extremely important to geopolitics and what it's going to look like in the future, in the very, very near future. But the settler colonialism that is at the foundation of the problem with leadership in this country. Right. That's what the problem is with everything that we are experiencing in this country right now. Let's take these three topics that are huge, like since we had our last show in the past week. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Justice Ginsburg passed away, and we were like amused at all the people who were like, "Oh, the progressive hero, Ruth RBG." First of all, let's make this clear. Don't call that woman Notorious RBG. There is only one Notorious BIG. And for people to have called Ruth Bader Ginsburg Notorious B.I.G. like a play on, Notorious B.I.G., that's just really insulting, because when you look at some of her opinions and the way she voted on issues of law and order, police overreach on the Supreme Court, some of her decisions would have locked people who look like the Notorious B.I.G. up for a long time. And see, this is kind of the problem with the political immaturity of folks in this country. And I have to be really careful, hun, when I say that, because I have to remember, like Kwame Ture said, because Kwame taught me, I didn't know what I know now. There was at one point in my life, I did not know then what I know now. And so it's not my responsibility to make the unconscious conscious. That I can't, if people are not aware of what is going on, I can't make them know what's going on. All I can do is let them know, look, there's some stuff you don't know, and hope that they listen and learn. Right. That's what I try to be kind of careful with, being judgmental of people who don't know all of the ins and outs of political stuff.
People who just aren't where you're at.
Right, people who aren't where I am. At the same time, though, how you gonna call somebody a progressive hero when you actually don't know what they did? And I feel like that speaks to like the follower nature of people in this country. It's like we need leaders.
Yeah, and it also speaks of this nation's weakness for celebrity culture.
I'm so glad you said
celebrity
that.
Culture, yeah. The Notorious RBG. Now, come on, now this, anyway.
That was a perfect segue, because look here. Oh, didn't mean the disappearance. There we go. This is and I hope you like the image, because it's pretty funny. This is an article in Current Affairs magazine. If you're not aware of Current Affairs, Nathan Robinson is the author he's the editor-in-chief. Current Affairs, great publication. I like a lot of the stuff in it. Don't agree with every single thing Nathan writes, but he's a great writer. He's very, very prolific, extremely detailed, and I do enjoy his writing. This was an article that was published in Current Affairs about the rise of the Ruth Bader Ginsburg cult. Oh, let me move my head out the way. There we go. There you go. Now, this was actually written by David Kinder. There we go. And I want to make sure that I don't post the date yet, because the date is important for this article.
Okay.
Listen, people have been, making a big deal about Ruth Bader Ginsburg being this progressive hero, and she's just been the last bastion of progressivism, and she stood up for progressive causes on the court, and that's just really not entirely true. As a matter of fact, that's not even mostly true. It's not like, and this is not to say that Justice Ginsburg has not weighed in on some very important decisions that have impacted the rights of women, birth control access, the LGBTQ community, on behalf of black people, on behalf of voting rights. That's absolutely true. But it's also true that she weighed in with some very conservative votes, voting with the conservative members of the court in some cases that did some real damage to people. This article was actually written in, where is the date on this thing? Maybe it's at the bottom. But this article was actually written in 2016.
Wow, 4 years ago.
Yeah. We've been trying to tell people that Ruth Bader Ginsburg is not like your progressive shero. Not that she's a terrible person, or but some of her decisions on the Supreme Court, some of her votes, some of her opinions were really, really not progressive at all. And we've talked about them, on our page. We've talked about them on By Any Means Necessary. There's a what do you call it? A podcast on Spreaker. We've got podcasts on Spreaker where we talk about that. But let me just pull out. Let me see if I can just find a couple of things. Oh, here's one. First of all, we always say that, look, I don't understand how you can be a principled person and be friends with unprincipled people. Just the fact that Antonin Scalia was Justice Ginsburg's best friend on the court. But that's a personal thing. But what about her ruling? Well, she ruled in support of prolonged solitary confinement. And this was a big which is really interesting, seeing that she's Jewish. She was Jewish. She is Jewish. And that was really an interesting opinion to take, It was extremely interesting.
Position to take,
Yeah, it was extremely interesting. And Justice Kennedy, this came out of the case Davis versus Ayala. And Justice Kennedy was the one who wrote this amazing, scathing condemnation of solitary confinement and prolonged solitary confinement. It wasn't that Ginsburg joined the dissenting opinion.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't weigh in on it at all. And that's a problem. Because if you are a justice on the Supreme Court, shouldn't you have an opinion?
Well, I'm always of the view that silence is consent.
Silence is now look, if silence is consent, if you're out here in these protests and you're holding up signs saying silence is consent, but you don't have a problem with Ruth Bader Ginsburg's silence on the issue of prolonged solitary confinement, you're being a hypocrite. And you really don't know what her record was. that's a problem. That's just one instance. There are a whole bunch of other cases where she ruled in an extremely conservative manner. She joined the conservatives on the court in regard to whether police could conduct warrantless searches of parolees merely because they were on parole, instead of joining the liberal dissenters, of which Sonia Sotomayor was one. Now, she's the actual progressive on the court, by the way. Hint, hint. Ginsberg sided with Clarence Thomas's majority opinion. It's right here. You can look up the case. The links are in here. We're not making this stuff up. She joined Clarence Thomas's majority opinion in favor of the police being able to do warrantless, without a warrant, without any reasonable doubt, without anything other than the person is on parole and they don't have any privacy just because.
Well, I mean, and let's be clear. I mean, this is even more insidious than that, because when you're on parole, you're considered property.
Exactly.
So what she cited really was, which is really a slap in the face to us being the descendants of slaves, and is the fact that what she did was side with the police on denying the humanity of those on parole, because they're considered property as long as you're on parole or connected to the criminal justice system. So you're state property.
Right. Let's see. I'm looking for the. Let me see. I'm gonna have to look for it. I'm just gonna have to search for it.
So again, while you're searching for it, so again, and this is not to take away from Justice Ginsburg's legacy. She has a very accomplished legacy from the, I think I can't name them all now, but I mean, she had a well-lived life. But what we're trying to really what we're really trying to establish is we need to stop this myth building of people. Yeah. We need to stop this myth building of people just because either they pass. People, your record is your record. So it doesn't matter whether you're not here anymore or whatever. Right. Your record is your record. And so if we are trying to some of you who talk about reform, or others who talk about changing the way that the system operates, then we really need to tell the truth about people's records, and how those things right there.
Right. Oh, actually, what I was looking for is not in this article, because this article was from 2016, and this case was from much more recently, where Ruth Bader Ginsburg cited the doctrine of discovery in ruling against the Oneida Nation for granting them sovereignty over land that was stolen from them that they actually had to purchase back. And her reasoning was that she did not want indigenous nations to get the idea that they could rekindle this this idea that had long gone cold, that they could have sovereignty over their land. And she cited the doctrine of discovery.
Yeah, right. And again, I hope folks understand where I'm coming from. But again, I mean, here you're talking about someone who was a very fervent supporter of Israel. So this is the thing. So why would you, being a Zionist, why would you rule other than that against Native Americans? Because if you took that position in the right way, then you would have to change the way you feel towards the Palestinians. And their rights.
And that brings up the issue of settler-colonialism and the Supreme Court. This idea that progressives have that we are going to get any kind of justice from an institution that consists of 9 unelected jurors or justices who are appointed by presidents, who serve the justices for life. They never have to run for that seat again. They're not elected. it's a popularity contest, basically. And these are the people who are supposed to interpret the document that was written by a bunch of settler colonists. And the document was not written to include rights, equal rights for people who were not settler colonists. So the idea that we can get justice from that group of folks, a uniquely undemocratic institution, the Supreme Court, the idea that those folks are going to correctly interpret the rights of people that were not included in the settler colonial charter that is the Constitution, I don't understand how progressives think that's going to happen.
I don't think that I mean I'm hoping that progressives have a lot more sense than that. But what we really have to understand is the fact that this is the same Supreme Court you and I were talking about. This is the same Supreme Court that says that black man, black people, let's put it that way, don't have any rights that that white society, if you want to make it more modern, that white society has to respect. It was that Supreme Court.
It was that.
So you could say, oh well, that was 100-some years ago. But again, this is the same Supreme Court that refused to hear. If you want to look modern times, this is the same Supreme Court that refused to hear the appeals of black men and women on death row. Some of the brother down there in I forget the state who was suffering from mental illness. The Supreme Court refused to hear it.
Right.
So again, these institutions are there to uphold the colonial settler state, as you said, but it's also up there to maintain the status quo. It's up there to maintain the status quo that was written in that document that they're supposed to interpret. That Constitution, the document they're supposed to interpret, is a document that says rich white guys are supposed to have everything, and then you have this caste system that goes all the way down into enslaved Africans. That has not changed. That has not changed even today. So you still have, if you want to replace rich white guys, they're still rich white guys, but if you want to replace that with the billionaire activist class, which is doing all this, and I coined that term, the billionaire activist class, because they are activists. We keep thinking activism as being, the way that we see it through the prism of liberalism and stuff.
Right.
But anytime Mitch McConnell and them would go against their own opinion in 2016 in order to be able to take advantage, to gain the advantage in putting who they want on the Supreme Court, that's activism.
Yep. And you know what? I'm glad you said that. Because remember, when Obama was president and the Republicans, especially the conservative Christians, they just would not shut up about this. Oh, Obama wants to appoint all of these activist judges. They did the same thing. The only difference between the Republicans and their activist judges and Obama and his was that the Republicans actually did appoint a rack of activist judges that the Democrats actually confirmed.
But this is the problem with the Democrats. Why did they not see this coming?
That's the thing.
You could not have. Look. Justice Ginsberg. It ain't like she died suddenly. Justice Ginsberg was sick for a long time. She was in the hospital a long time. You didn't have to be a soothsayer to know that her time was running out. And why wasn't there anybody in the Democrat Party circle saying, I know what they're going to try to do?
Well, I'm so glad you said that. Because there was somebody. Somebody had the bright idea. Somebody told Barack Obama. What year was it? I can't remember what year it was. But somebody did tell Barack Obama, listen, we have the White House, we have a Supreme Court pick. We can have two after Antonin Scalia died. We can have two. We can have two if we can convince Justice Ginsburg to retire.
Oh, she wouldn't retire. I remember that.
Exactly. She refused to retire. Why come she refused to retire? Again, remember, these are 9 people who are not elected by the people. They're appointed by presidents. It's a popularity contest, and it's always been political. I don't care what they say. Ginsburg said that she was not going to retire. Number one, because she felt like Obama couldn't find anybody better than her to be confirmed, and Then she said that she didn't want to retire because she wanted Hillary Clinton to appoint her successor. How'd that work out? How'd that work out for you? So, you can't force, nobody could force her to retire. Right. But just her ego getting in the way of.
But how is that position that she's taken, what you just explained, how is that any different? Because here it is, you're talking about, as much as we criticize Obama, but the thing of it is, how is that any different than the type of shenanigans that the Republican Party behind Mitch McConnell was doing with Barack Obama too? What I'm saying is that beside the point that this whole liberal the position she took about, I won't retire because I want Hillary Clinton to appoint my successor. This is still, now she's so liberal, and I'm sure she applauded the first black president, but then what I'm saying is that she did not have enough liberalism in her to say, well, I'm going to help this guy out. She don't need the money. Exactly. I mean, she didn't need the money. She didn't need the fame. She didn't need the notoriety. But again, I want Hillary Clinton to appoint my successor. And I understand in some ways why she might say that, because she has staked her whole career on women's rights and all this other kind of stuff. And it would have been kind of poetic, to do that.
Sure.
But again, you're talking about still anti-black, this anti-black way that not only the Republicans and conservatives handle on the Obama administration, but even within the so-called liberal sector, this whole anti-black she might as well have been just like McConnell of, we're going to make sure this guy fail. That's just my opinion, because I mean, if it was about the greater good.
Thank you.
If it was about the greater good, then it would have been like, you know what? I see what they're trying to do.
Right.
So if it's about the greater good, then she would have took a different position. But, again, nobody wanted the greater good when it came to the black president.
But see, that is the settler-colonial mindset. There is no greater good in the settler-colonial mindset. There's no greater good in the settler-colonial system. It's what I'm going to do. It is what I have the right to do because I have the money and the power. And it's what you're going to do, which is just sit there and take it. And that's where we are. So here's another example, real quick. What's going on in Louisville? Louisville. Thank you. In Kentucky, with the murder of Breonna Taylor. Now, if you have not heard the news that Vice News was able to obtain body cam footage from over 40 body cameras. Remember, those people down in Louisville told us that won't nobody had no body cams on. I'm just country right now because it's just crazy. They said that no, they didn't have any body cams on. The cops who served the warrant didn't have body cams on because they were plain clothes because they were serving a no-knock warrant. Then we find out that one of them might have had a body cam on. And now Vice News has dropped footage of over 40 body cameras from the cops who showed up on the scene after the shooting. Now, all of those cops had body cameras on. I don't know who gave Vice News. Somebody in the police department was like, fuck this. This is some crazy shit, and I'm just going to take a chance. Vice News has exposed that the body cam footage of the cops who showed up at the scene after the shooting showed the initial cops violating protocol that was put in place to, for police accountability in these kinds of incidents where there is a police shooting, or what they call an officer-involved shooting, when a cop shoots somebody. These cops completely violated protocol. Not only did they just violate protocol, they contaminated the crime scene. The cops who shot Breonna Taylor, they contaminated the crime scene. They weren't supposed to be there. The protocol is this special, police integrity unit is supposed to show up at the scene of a shooting. Yeah, I know, but that's what they call it, the PIU. They're supposed to show up when a cop shoots somebody. If there's more than one cop on the scene, those two cops are supposed to be separated, and they're supposed to be escorted away from the scene by members of the PIU, so that the cops can't hang out and get their story straight. That's the way it's supposed to happen, and they're not supposed to be on the scene. They're not supposed to have access to the victim, to the evidence, to the witnesses, so they can't influence and tamper with anything. None of that shit happened. None of it happened. Those cops who shot Breonna Taylor stayed on the scene. 45 different body cameras. There it is. Those cops violated the procedures for these shootings by not being separated, by staying on the scene. They were not isolated from non-essential people during the investigation. And one of the former Louisville police narcotics cops said, "I've never seen anything like this." This is what a cop told Vice News about the way these cops who shot Breonna Taylor were in the apartment after the shooting. They shouldn't have been there. They were in there contaminating the scene. They were in there questioning Walker, Breonna's boyfriend. They questioned their neighbors. They weren't supposed to. So there's that issue with the evidence being contaminated. The retired, the former narcotics officer said, "This is not how it's supposed to work." This is what he told Vice News. But it gets worse. There's also information that casts doubt on whether the bullet from Walker's gun is actually the bullet that shot the one cop in the thigh.
Right. That's what he was arrested for. Walker was.
Right. And remember, Attorney General Cameron, I'm going to drop these links in the YouTube chat for y'all so you can have access to them. There are two or three articles. There was remember Attorney General, what's his name? Daniel Cameron, who everybody, when the case was first going to the grand jury, everybody started sharing this guy's picture because, like, oh, look, this is the AG who's getting the case. Like, he was gonna...
Right. Because he's black.
Because he was black. And I didn't say anything at the time because I was like, do people not know who this dude is? People don't know that this dude is a Republican. People don't know. Okay, I'm not going to say
Obviously,
nothing.
people didn't know.
People didn't know. And I was like, wait, hold on. People really didn't know. When I realized that people did not know who this man was, I was like, wait a minute. People actually believe that just because he's a black attorney general that he was going to be, that he wasn't going to uphold the system. So, of course.
But they done that in Baltimore with Mosby.
That's true.
So,
that's true.
I mean, black folks are just, when I kind of want to be easy on that because, black people are just looking for hope. We've been so disappointed in this system so much. They probably knew that the guy was a sellout, but they was just like, come on, man, this sister, man, got shot. This sister did everything right. She's an EMT. She went everything right. She was in her apartment, in bed. She was this and that. You can't get more non-threatening than being in your bed, man, or like the lady said yesterday, or eating ice cream in the case of Bohan Jean.
Botham John.
Yeah. So they was like looking at us like, brother, we understand that, you got a big house and 4-car garage and the system's been kind of, good to you in a way, but brother. And so I think that this was black people once again, because we don't have any political power.
Yeah.
See, and this is the problem. We don't have any political power. We don't have any economic power. It's despite what we think, but we don't. And so we have to hang our hats on these type of symbolic, these symbolisms of hope. Oh, he's black. So maybe it ain't all out of them. You know, or like with Mosley up in Baltimore. She was talking real slick and stuff at the press conference. So black people from the hood was like, yo, she kind of talking slick. You know, she might take it to him. You know, but again, Kamala Harris. A lot of them. So so black people, we've been put in the position in this country because we have no political power, because we have no economic power, and we're at the bottom of the caste system in this society, that when we look for justice, we know that we pin our hats on these symbolisms because we know that we can't depend on the system. And we're hoping that a spook sitting by the door
is going to buck the system from the inside.
Right.
But that never happens. I'm so glad you said that. That's perfect, because this is why we need to stop doing that. Because the issue is not these individual people that we hang our hopes on who disappoint us all the time. Yeah, Marilyn Mosby disappointed us. Yeah, Daniel Cameron well, he probably didn't disappoint us. I mean, we just shouldn't have. But you know what I'm saying? Do you understand what we're saying?
Right.
We hang our hopes on these individuals who we hope are going to be the exception to the rule. But in this settler colonial capitalist system, there is no exception to the rule if they're in the system. There's no such thing as changing the system from the inside. It doesn't. That's not how it works.
And we have to understand that they all disappoint.
And
that's the thing. And what really solidified that opinion in me is Barack Obama. They all disappoint because, first of all, the as you talk about the colonial settler nation state, these people, even though they look like us, see if Barack Obama and this AG from Kentucky and all the others, the Herman Cains and all them, if we were to take them out and put them somewhere else, like in Africa or something, they would be neo-colonialists. You know what I mean? So they're just they're black, but they're carrying on the policies and the ideology of the European settler colonial white supremacist state. So it's the same thing here. It's like they were educated in these colleges and universities which teach white supremacy.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't care about your African American history elective, but basically your degree is not going to be in there. These people, Barack Obama, constitutional lawyer and all that, constitutional lawyer, that screams white supremacy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So so they buy into this they buy into this myth of what this nation is about. And then within our own little sphere of being black people, then we have to deal with the classism that's amongst us. So we've been told hey, look, in order for you to make it, you got to do X, Y, and Z, and those Negroes that you drive by every day, that and all this other kind of stuff, they just don't want anything. And so what happens is that you're not going to make it in this system. You're not going to make it in this system, first of all, without white people choosing you. And number two, if white people choose you and you get any kind of position as a black man or woman or Hispanic, any person of color, if you rise in this system, trust me, you are not going to be radical. You're not going to be, because you wouldn't have gotten that far had you would have held those type of views. You wouldn't have gotten that far. The lady, state senator, they got locked up.
Attica. I talked about her the other day. I can't remember her last name.
The one that
right. Yeah.
Now she's one who she ain't gonna go no further than what she is.
Nope.
People got to elect her, but she is not gonna be appointed nowhere. Nobody's gonna appoint her to this position. We got to come out and vote for her. But these other people like that have bought into white supremacist ideology, they are the ones that get appointed here, they get appointed there, because they're not going to be a threat to the system.
Exactly.
And until our people realize that, but again, I try to be a little easy on that, because I understand that in this society, especially when it comes to us and when it comes to justice, we know that we internally know. When the verdict came down from the grand jury in Breonna Taylor's case, most black folks said, I knew it.
Yeah. We knew before.
We
knew when they were boarding stuff up before the announcement even came out. We knew
because the system was like they was boarding stuff up. They was getting the curfews together because they was like, we about ready to fuck them.
Yep. And we knew it. But we had that little bit of hope. But what I think I would like to say about this situation, not to beat up on our folks, because we're deeply oppressed and deeply propagandized to believe in this system, to hope in this system, to expect justice from a system that wasn't created for us, and wasn't created to provide justice for us. So right. But we're indoctrinated in other ways. But I think what I would like to leave folks with this one issue in Louisville is, people are calling a dude. I would like for us to stop calling these folks names, and that's just my personal thing.
We need, and I agree with you, Jack. I think because I stopped doing it. I'm not going to call people coons or Uncle Toms and all this stuff. I mean, because it really lessen the importance of what we're trying to do. When people devolve, one of the things that people like and people hate about Trump is he immediately gets into these personal attacks and name calling. This fight that we're in, I think that it cheapens our struggle when we get into the name calling and all this stuff with coons. And first of all, we have to understand that black people, like any other people, are not monolithic.
Right.
So white people couldn't just go into Africa and snatch us up. They had to have black allies to do that. They had to have black people who knew the landscape. They had to have black people who knew, who had guided these Europeans and worked with them in order to enslave our people. So it wasn't about skin color. It was about opportunity. Mm-hmm. It was about the fact that people, human beings, have the ability to divorce themselves from seeing somebody else's humanity mm-hmm. when it comes to their own selfish personal gain. So we didn't get here in the diaspora because white folks was that brave to go into Africa and just snatch us up. They had to develop relationships mm-hmm. with other African tribes and other people that would work with them. So it's even in this system, the system of white supremacy couldn't endure unless there were people who decided that they were going to work with not only in the system but to uphold the system mm-hmm. for their personal gain. If it was just Europeans and if it was just white folks in this country trying to maintain white supremacy, it would have crumbled a long time ago.
Yeah, every oppressive system.
Collaborators.
Thank you. That's where I was going. Every oppressive system needs collaborators who are willing to take some measure of payment for, turning their backs on justice and equality and decency and upholding oppression. Some people do have a price, and people. Some of those people are very clear on what their price is. So I don't like to spend a whole lot of time and energy calling folks coons and all this kind of stuff. They made their choice and it was a conscious choice, and they recognize that they are not speaking to the people on behalf of the people because they don't see themselves as a part of the people.
Well, we will start calling names and stuff when the revolution is won and we start having tribunals. Oh. And we start calling these people to account for their betrayal, So then we would sit up there and say, "Sir, have you not been a coon when it came to?" I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Mr. Avant Jazz said, "Should we call these people misleaders?" Absolutely.
Well,
yeah, they are misleaders.
Definitely misleaders.
Yeah.
And I also feel that part of this is why political education is so because. We've been beating the head since we were propagandized by this system to think that there is nothing else better out there besides what we're in. Mm-hmm. We can't mm-hmm. question. That's why so many black folks don't want to try Pan-Africanism. Yep. Why so many black folks don't trust our own ingenuity. We talk about Black Wall Street. We talk about how black people in this country during slavery and right after slavery and Jim Crow, how black people were able to establish their communities and stuff. They did all this without the help of the government. They did all of this without the help of there was no stimulus. There was no reparations.
Right.
Yet our ancestors, through their own ingenuity, was like, you know what? We're going to establish our own towns. We're going to establish this. We're going to establish that. But what happened is that the system in protecting itself had basically demonized any efforts outside of itself to make it. So if you choose another path and say that, and this is what, we're going to have a show called The Blueprint, because I believe personally, and I've said this, and you can call me a pessimist or whatever, but I believe that black people in this country are going to have to establish institutions and systems of their own and divorce from this white supremacist system. And I'm talking about totally divorced. We look at people and say, oh, he's off the grid. Right. They're off the grid. We can't even find it. Well, the whole black nation in this country need to be off the grid. That's what I'm talking about, folks. Pull your kids out of the military. You know what I mean? Don't, look, we have to divorce. Why are we constantly investing in a system that has shown time and time again its hostility towards us? So, even when we try to do things right. I was telling you the other day about the study that came out that said that during COVID, when the government was being Santa, releasing all of this COVID relief fund and stuff, black businesses had a harder time getting access to that COVID relief money. Right. Black business had I mean, so, and that's just one of many studies that you and I can cite about how even when black people play within the system still make you pay more. The system still has a way of practicing inequality when it comes to black people who, great credit score and everything else, who feel like they made all the right decisions and so they should be treated fairly. Only to have studies come out and say, yeah, you got your degree, you got this, yeah, you live in the suburbs and stuff, but guess what? Your property taxes are, you're paying more property taxes than the white people in the next suburb, not very far from you. So the system has an inherent inequity when it comes to us. So in order to deal with that, is not to graduate more of our kids to get their MBAs and all this stuff. Right, from their institute, because they're never going to teach us how to beat them. So the thing of it is that you're not going to just, oh, well, why don't we, as I heard some disc jockey on one of the black radio shows say, oh, we just have to have our kids get their law degrees and stuff so they can this, that. That is the way, this is why we're where we at now, because we're not thinking outside the box. We're still hoping that somehow we can negotiate with white supremacy, that somehow if we just that there's somehow we can tweak this system enough to treat us fairly. But the thing of it is that if your kids want to be lawyers and stuff, fine, but let them practice their law in institutions that we establish. Exactly. Let them practice. If they want to be in the military, they like jumping out of planes and stuff, then you know what, in these black townships that's being created, stuff, then go down there and be on the police force of that black township or something. And a lot of people don't like this type of talk, but this type of talk is necessary, because what's happening is, as we go further down the pipe, when resources are becoming more and more scarce, and as these battle lines are drawn, as white supremacists become more emboldened because of a white supremacist government that's giving them the wink, wink, nod, nod, then what are we supposed to do? Are we still supposed to sit back and be cannon fodder for white supremacist ideology that we've been since 1619?
Right. Push our kids into push more of our kids into colleges and put more of our kids into the military, and that the white supremacists have infiltrated, by the way. Really? That's not the answer.
In the borrow Malcolm X, El Haj Malik Shabaz's term that he used to say all the time, that's intelligent. It's no one would stay with something, maybe some of you would, but most people would not be in a relationship when you're getting your ass kicked all the time, and and you're saying, well, they might change. You know what? Maybe if I do this, they might change. No, sooner or later you're gonna get tired of getting your ass whooped. So when we have a police force in this country that is acting like death squads when it comes to black and brown and native people, then something has to be done. There is no reform, because if there was reform, why would those cops violate the protocols that has already been established?
There it is, right there.
There's no reform.
You can't reform. Anyway, the last point for tonight, y'all.
Thank you, Forrest. I want to say this.
Yes, what?
Forrest said communities completely divorced from capitalism. That's a very important point.
Exactly.
Thank you, Forrest.
That is absolutely true. Oh, that's we got 2 shows lined up.
We got
now.
2 shows.
Maybe 3.
Yeah, we got a little energy back now.
Yeah. So, all right, last point for tonight. Now, I know that some of y'all are losing your minds over the fact that Donald Trump only paid $750 in taxes the year that he ran for president, and then he paid $750 in federal taxes the first year he was president, 2016 and 2017, and then for 10 of the 15 years before that, he didn't pay any taxes at all. I don't know why that's a surprise to y'all. I mean, it's funny the fact that we literally do pay more in 1 year for, where is he?
Brewski.
Yes. We pay more in 1 year for our dog's dog food. We get his dog food delivered from Chewy.com because he's 90 pounds of dog and don't nobody want to go to Petco, PetSmart every month and drag 40-pound bags of food and 2 crates of cat. We don't want to do all that. So we get it delivered from Chewy.com and we get a little discount. So we spend about $70 a month on his dog food. We paid more, that comes out to more than $750 a year. Mm-hmm. We paid more last year in dog food than Donald Trump paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017.
We paid more in buying toilet paper.
We did. We paid more. I mean, the computer that we are using to stream this show from, we paid more for that than the 2 years that he... So, I mean, that's enraging, sure, but it's not like you didn't know, especially since in 2016, in the debate between Clinton and Trump, Hillary Clinton brought up the fact that the tax returns that were available showed that Trump didn't pay any taxes then. And his response was, is it in here? Yeah. Trump said, in paying no taxes, that makes me smart. He was elected anyway. I don't know why the New York Times and all these papers think that this is going to matter to people who support Donald Trump. It's not. If they think this is the thing that is going to sink his campaign for the 2020 election, they're going to be sorely, terribly disappointed. Those people who love Donald Trump don't care that he didn't pay any taxes. They believe that he was smart. And let's be clear, he didn't do anything illegal.
No.
He operated within the system as it exists for people like him.
Because they are in charge. I don't understand why this is so strange. Warren Buffett said that his secretary pays more in taxes. I mean, at least he had a little shame. Warren Buffett was like, that's when he was encouraging the government to increase taxes on billionaires. Mm-hmm. Because he said, I want my taxes increased because it's a shame that my secretary pays more in taxes than I do. But what happened is that you had this billionaire coup of the government. See, back in Eisenhower's day, they were paying 92% of 92% tax rate, mm-hmm. and ever since then, they've been chipping away at it. Now Trump in his first term in office, the first thing he did was pass a massive tax break on the wealthy.
That was the first thing he did.
So now he ensured that he won't even pay $746 a year now with a massive tax break. But yet, you and I, we can't get that. You and I, and this is another thing that get me. Everybody said we need Trump in office because, after all, he's a businessman. And as a businessman, he knows how to turn this country around. Find out that Michael Cohen mm-hmm. said that the way Trump did it is the fact that he'll overvalue his properties to the banks and stuff, and then when it comes time to pay taxes, then he lowers the value or something. Mm-hmm. But it's not illegal. But the thing of it is that he's not unique. This is how the rich get over. Tax lawyers are like one of the most sought after people amongst the billionaire class. Jeff Bezos, who's on his way of becoming a trillionaire, everywhere he planted an Amazon flag, those townships subsidized anything that he wants to establish in the town. He gets plenty of tax breaks. You know, I mean, all these Amazon, Microsoft headquarters, Google, all of them, they don't pay a dime for none of this stuff. So, you know, so Trump is not unique. Trump is playing the game the way the game was meant to play amongst them.
That's right.
We're the suckers. We're the suckers while we just go out here every day and we drone to work and we do this and we do that. We're the suckers because had we had any type of had we really were angry about all of this, then we would have been like they're doing in France, like they did over there. We would have come out here as a truck driver. We would be dumping mud and dirt all in the street. People should be taking shits all in the street. I mean, we need to really show. But see, the thing of it is, the system has us scared to do any of that.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So I mean, here it is. They're talking about the Black Lives Matter protests and stuff, and they're labeling that violent. They ain't seen what the French did when you was trying to take their pension from them. Man. They ain't seen what in Hong Kong and in all these other places where people is like, oh, nah, you ain't doing that shit to us. But here in America, we're the suckers because we sit back and elect people who have such contempt for us. I mean, why is it that they're wearing these flag lapels, and they're so patriotic, but yet they're starving the very system that is supposed to uphold this they're starving the economy. So they're starving the economy, but yet, you know, God bless the troops. God bless this. We're so patriotic. They're the most unpatriotic people. They're the most non-democratic people, but yet they have us believing in the system that and we keep electing people who have contempt for us. That's not just on the Republican side. That's on the Democrat side. So they love it. They got the advantage. They'll never let a third party in. They'll never let, because they have the advantage. They'll play the game, Schumer and Pelosi. They'll play the game like they really on our side, and they'll be like, and Schumer come up there and they'll do all of this theatrics. But in actuality, they know the game is in their favor. It's not in our favor. And so they're not going to allow anybody else to come in there, no other third party or nothing. That's why the Democrat Party is suing. They don't want that because they like it the way it is. They gain, we lose. And so this is where we're at.
That is indeed where we're at. And that's why I agree with Forrest over here. We need worker solidarity. We need serious working class and poor solidarity, organization and mobilization in this country. That is the only thing.
Well, if we're going to get worker solidarity, and I agree with that too. And I guess for transparency, I can say this: I drive a dump truck, and I hate the way that this system treats us. I've been driving trucks, man, for like over 30 years, and I've never seen this type of mistreatment of truck drivers that I see now. And I'm talking about from the developers, these builders and all this stuff, and they're able to mistreat us because those who we work for are in cahoots with them. So and because of the division amongst the working class, that's why worker solidarity is so hard, because you have, and I'm just taking my industry, we have a lot of immigrants in my industry, Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, Ethiopians, Africans, Eastern European. We have a lot of different ethnic groups, and what happens is the fact that everyone, and this is how this system protects itself. They tell everybody that you ain't got nothing in common with them. You know what I mean? That or you ain't got nothing in common with them. All you do is you run your 5-6 loads a day. And if you could beat me, and so while I'm driving, because I do have some little political education, while I'm driving around, it's not lost on me the way these other drivers drive. There is no solidarity. What it is the fact that it's this rugged individualism that never works for working class people, and it's all of this belief in the myth that my own efforts and stuff is going to make me successful in this society. What they don't understand is that no matter what individual efforts you that you put forward thinking that you're going to get ahead. Why you don't get ahead? Because you don't get ahead because the capitalists and the working and the capitalists have already rigged the game.
That's
you know what I mean, Jackie? You know, and I'll end with this. They used to pay us like by the hour all the time, right? And you go on these job sites and they say, oh well, you know, we'll pay you by the hour. Now it's by the load. You know what I mean? So now you hardly ever get a job now, especially in these construction sites in the DMV area, that's by the hour anymore. You know, because they want to constantly crack the whip. Right. Now, to make it even more clear, most of these job sites that do that have a majority of the majority of the guys, the majority of the truckers are black and brown people. Now, that's something to think about. That the majority of these work sites that do us like this, the majority of the truck drivers are black and brown. That you go, I mean, we even laugh amongst ourselves. You don't see white guys on these trucking sites like that.
Wow.
But mostly black and brown people. So the system is inherently unequal when it comes to us. So that is why, and so to get back to my point about work solidarity, I told you that I wanted to start to just have a conversation. Because you think I mean, if you're feeling this way, you're not the only one feeling this way.
Right.
But people are afraid. So, you know, you start to be like, hey, look, and I've been a truck driver for over 30 years. I remember when we used to strike. I remember the last couple of truck strikes and everything. But that was, again, led by mainly white truck drivers. And see, and we need to understand, white truck drivers who have, that's white privilege. White truck drivers who was like, we ain't taking this.
Right.
But you know, but again, we have to in the example I'm giving, that we have to engage each other on our workplace. We have to engage each other. We have to be we have to not be afraid to invite people to our homes. You know, and I understand we need safe places and stuff, but there isn't, and I'm glad that Forrest brought that up. We are not going to have any sustainable revolution, rebellion, or change in the society unless the workers stand together. And the billionaire and the capitalists know this. That's why they constantly harp on the racial part of it, because if they can convince white workers that we're stealing your jobs, or the Mexicans are coming, or this and that, they play all of this, and the reason why they continue to do it because it's been successful.
Exactly. I mean, you know what that's called? That's called organizing, brother.
Yep.
That's called organizing. Organizing is not some mystical thing. Right now, we're organizing.
But see, we have to understand this. When you start to get to get down that road, this is a dangerous road. And see, and we need to let people know. See, we talk this stuff, but we have to understand, this is not child's play. When you start to rally and get workers together, this is not, people died.
People died
doing this stuff.
So you have to understand the sacrifices you're willing to make for the worker solidarity and the fight against this settler, colonial, imperialist, white supremacist system that we must undertake. We must educate ourselves, have these conversations, but we must organize. We must organize amongst ourselves, get involved in revolutionary organizations. You all know we belong to one of them, Black Alliance for Peace. We belong to another one, Pan-African Community Action, right here in Washington, D.C. Find a local radical organization in your area. They're out there. They exist. They are organizing. They are doing political education. We can't afford to be on the sidelines anymore because the playing field is taken up completely by the rich and the powerful. There are no sidelines anymore. No sidelines anymore. You're in this fight whether you want to be or not. So you might as well be educated and organized to do your part in it. So that's the show. Right.
Yeah, because, I mean, and just briefly, and I had to say this, if we don't, with climate change and everything else, we're going to be starving, sweating, and all kinds of stuff. and we ain't even gonna have no trees because it's all gonna burn down. And we still sitting up here talking about I gotta get up and go to work.
I gotta get up and go to work. I gotta send my kid to Amazon school.
Right.
And I gotta go to work at Walmart. And I have to make sure we come back in time so we can get a bed at Microsoft Village.
Right, exactly.
That's
so
gonna be our existence.
That's gonna be that is going. This is where they want us at. So no matter if it's Democrat or Republican, this is where they want us at. They'll play the game to pacify us, but in the end, they know that the way that things are set up is they win, we lose.
All right, y'all. Thanks so much for joining us tonight here in another edition of Live and Coffee, Current Events and Politics in Luqman Nation.
The most dangerous show on social media anywhere.
We appreciate y'all so much. Thanks for joining us. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter, Luqman Nation, the #1. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Share our content. Consider becoming a patron. You can find us on Patreon.com.
Oh, we got them this Wednesday, too. Patreon show.
Yes, we do. You can find us on Patreon. Patreon.com/Luqman Nation. And this Wednesday, yes, our patrons only show. So thanks so much, y'all, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Some closing music.
Well, do you have closing music?
I have closing music.
He has closing music. Let's hear it.
My little kalimba.
Hit it. Good night, y'all. Keep playing.